All right, guys.
Here we are.
We're live.
Our first one.
Our first podcast.
Yep.
It's interesting. It's interesting being in a different environment, not filming a video,
right?
And just kind of sitting down, and it's going to take us a little bit to get used to.
Yep.
But we got big plans for this podcast. Right now, we're at the dining table with a super rigged setup and the neighbor's Ethernet cord and all types of stuff. But hopefully in the future,
Yep.
You
two monitors, a big one here so I can read. Yep.
Hopefully in the future, I mean not hopefully, but definitely in the future, we'll be able to get this thing going the way that we want to. Because the goal of the podcast is what? I mean, what are we trying to do here?
Share knowledge, not just us to our viewers, but our viewers to our viewers.
Right, and we want everybody to come together and just provide helping hands.
Right.
Because the internet searches can only go so far. There's only so many articles and videos that can specifically address what you're going through, and we know how different it all is.
And we have some great questions.
We do. And you just want to get right into it?
I think so.
Okay.
Let's just roll.
Yeah, let's just roll into it. All right, our first question is from Sebastian, Mr. Tello. He says that he's from St. Louis. They bought a house about a year and a half ago, and it was built in 1961.
All right.
They have an electrical system in the house. All the circuits upstairs have the original 2-wire cables with no ground, and in some places like the attic and the basement, we've seen that the cables are connected outside of boxes.
All right.
No good. We worry that this is happening all over the house. They need to decide if they need to try and rewire the rest of the house. So the question that they're asking is, how necessary do you think it is to rewire the rest of the house? An easier option that they are considering was replacing all the breakers in the panel with dual-function GFCI AGCI breakers. And would that protect against arc faults? Could they sleep in peace? They've got a ton more questions related to a million projects in their basement, but they'll leave those for another time. Well, first, before you go, Dad, I'll say if you have a ton more questions, send them in.
That's right.
We want to know about them.
And for our very first question, this is kind of a hard one, I think.
It is hard. We're just going right in the deep end.
Yeah. So 1961, probably NM cable, the predecessor to NMB, and that makes total sense based on the timeline. And of course, NM cable did not have a ground. The first question I would ask myself would be, is this your forever home? If you're going to stay there forever, I would say yes. A rewire is appropriate.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to move it or sell it within 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't do it.
Leave that for the next person?
Right. Well, my next question would be, is the panel original? If it is, you're not going to be able to put a modern breaker in there with ground fault and arc fault protection. If it is your forever home, this is how I would go about it. The first thing you need to do before you call anybody, an electrician, go to the permit office, anything like that, is do an electrical diagram of the entire house. Every receptacle, every light, every switch, everything on every floor, put it on paper, trace every circuit out. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Then you're going to have to find an electrician who's willing to work with you. If you're refinishing the basement and you want to do that first, rewire the basement first, but allow yourself a chase to rewire the top part of the house, the first and second floor in the attic, because you're going to have to be able to get from the panel in your new basement up to those other floors, and you don't want to be cutting the wall open.
Right.
New panel, rewire the basement, leave yourself an option, an out, a way to get out of the panel into the other floors. Then work with your electrician and say, okay, maybe we want to do the upper stories first. You have to get a route for the new wiring up there, and then a route to wire all those receptacles and lights and switches. That's the hardest part. If you can do that and then have the electrician come in and just run wires, it's like we say, I'm going to dig as much as I can before the plumber gets here because I don't want to pay a plumber to dig.
Right.
I'm going to do what I can do and then let the professionals, electricians, plumbers, do what they can do. And then I can patch everything afterwards. So that's kind of where I'm at is it your forever home? If you do want to rewire it, start in the basement, start with your panel, and leave yourself a route to get to the rest of the house and take it in phases. And those phases are going to be based on your discussion with your electrician on the best way to do it.
Well, that's a lot. So to recap, you're saying that he should tackle the basement first, do as much as he can, but what if he can't, or what if he can't do that as a homeowner? What if he doesn't have the know-how to dig the hole for the plumber? What if he can't prep for the electrician? Then
maybe you could find a general contractor who'd be willing to come in and do all your cutting and patching. Because that is key. Knowing where to cut, how to cut. Let's make nice parallel cuts, square cuts, level cuts. So when it's time to patch drywall, 1961, I'm assuming there's drywall.
And if you get lucky, you might find a general contractor who can map it for you.
That's right.
Yeah,
like StudPack.
Cool.
Appreciate the question. We hope that helps, Sebastian.
Yeah.
And send us those other questions when you get a chance.
Absolutely. Right. All right, the next one we have is from Mr. David. He's talking about, well, let me just read it. He says he lives in an old Baptist church.
Cool.
And it was converted to a duplex in 2007. You know, like, hey, I'm having a party, you know?
Which house is yours? Oh, you can't miss it. It's the one with the steeple,
The one
right?
on the corner with the steeple. Oh, nice. Okay. The roof was replaced in 2017, and there's a few small leaks. As I'm sure you know, it rains almost every day in Florida during the summer. Oh, we know all about raining every day during the summer. But it only leaks when it's raining really hard, and perhaps when the wind is blowing. Unlike a normal house, you can see the underside of the roof decking and the leaking into the living space. He's got pictures attached. So
cool.
the reason, one of the reasons we want to do this in a video format is so that we can show you guys the pictures. People are going to be sending in pictures and videos, and we want to be able to show you guys what we're looking at as well. So you guys will be able to show that or see that. I'll put that up on the screen. So he's had a few roofers out to look at this chapel. And surprise, surprise, they all have different opinions on what might be the issue. The issue.
Like we say, two of a trade will never agree.
Never. My roof is very new. They use the peel and stick barrier. I'm told, quote unquote, the good stuff.
All right.
So roofer number 1 replaced the roof in 2017 and says that the hardy board siding sucks near the steeple and the chimney. That's why it's leaking. Roofer number 2 says, I don't know, the wood underneath is soft. And because of that, they want to replace a 6x6 area as well as another 8x10 area. Because remember, there's a chapel, there's the steeple, and the chimney. So they have to replace 2 separate areas because they're leaking on both spots.
All right.
And then roofer number 3 says the flashing near the chimney is not secured properly and that the shingles near the steeple are nailed improperly. And right off the bat, he says flashing near the chimney, but shingles near the steeple. And as we can see right here, there is no flashing near the steeple.
You can't see it.
You can't see it.
So the siding is tight against the shingles, which is kind of a big no-no.
Right.
And then just based on that first picture, I have a few questions. What are the 2 holes in the side? They look like some type of vent, and the one on the left looks wide open.
Right. There's no mesh on the one on the left.
Right.
So rain is definitely going to be getting in there.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that is the steeple, I assume.
Yeah, it has to be.
So the second thing I noticed is you said you could see the roof decking from underneath the house or from the inside. So there's no insulation or anything. So
True.
What's up with the ridge vents?
Right.
Why would you put a ridge vent on a roof like that?
Right. You can see the ridge vent
There's
here.
nothing to vent.
Well, yeah, you're venting your money.
Yeah.
Your
Well,
air conditioning.
Well, maybe they didn't make that cut through the top for air to vent.
Right.
Maybe they just put it on there.
Maybe it's just for looks, to pass code. The inspectors will like this.
But that's kind of weird. And then on the flashing, I don't see any metal flashing or stub flashing at all. Maybe it's buried under all that, but I would start there. And that siding should not be touching the shingles like that. And there are a couple spots. I don't know if those are nail heads I'm seeing, or if that's from a pigeon.
Bird poop.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, aren't you supposed to have a gap on this siding board? You're supposed to leave a gap on the surfaces. It's like a quarter inch maybe?
Well,
half inch?
even bigger than that, depending on the siding.
Right, and the flashing that you want to install.
Right.
So the fact that there's no flashing on the outside of the steeple already is a huge red flag.
Yeah, and the guy that did that, he should be able to tell you if he put flashing there, but again, did he really do it?
Right.
And an uninsulated roof in Florida like that, I'm looking at the pictures, a wide open building, what does it take to put air conditioning in that place?
Prayer.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. And it looks like you live on the steeple end. Who lives on the end where the baptistry is? That would be another question I would have.
They got a free bathtub.
That's true.
They didn't have to pay for the bathtub when they converted it.
I guess they put a wall in the middle. But look at that place. That's awesome.
That is really cool.
Yep.
Looks like it got a fresh coat of blue paint. It almost blends in with the sky. What a cool place to live.
Yeah, and I don't know if the stained glass windows are still there, those round windows, but that's cool.
Right.
But I would just address those. What are the holes in the side of the steeple? Is it flashed properly? And what's up with the ridge vents?
It's always hard to have 3 experts to come in and they all tell you different things. You don't know who to listen to, who to trust.
Right.
That's always a tough situation. As far as the soft wood, I think if the wood is soft, you got to replace it regardless.
Yeah, and that's not plywood. That looks like some kind of 2x tongue and groove.
Yeah.
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 So it's pretty solid. So if it's soft,
definitely it has to be replaced.
Yeah.
Roofer number 2 is correct.
Yeah.
It does need to be replaced because then you're looking at a cave-in of sorts. And then the flashing near the chimney is not secured properly. So I guess the question you have to ask is there flashing on my steeple? Is it installed properly? Is the flashing on the chimney installed properly? And if it's not, You really have to get someone out there to tell you there's no flashing. We got to put some, which means you got to cut the siding. You got to go around and cut all of that to have proper gappage. That's a big job.
Yep. And is this the one where they said it only blows when the wind blows in a certain? It
Yes.
only leaks when the wind blows. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely could be a flashing issue.
Yeah. So
and if it's around the steeple and around the chimney, both roof penetrations, that's where I'd suspect.
that's where you'd start.
Yep.
Yeah. So get that flashing checked out, David. That's
Yeah.
probably your issue.
Yeah, and then let us know what those holes in the side are. It looks like that one on the left. I don't know. It looks like it's going right through the building.
Maybe there's like
driving rain could get through there.
Yeah, maybe there's like a little bird city in there.
Who knows?
All right, thanks, David. Appreciate it. All right, this one's from Alex. He says, hey, Paul and Jordan, he recently bought a house, and the biggest issue he's facing is since it was built in 1955, the majority of the receptacles are two-prong outlets. He wants to update them to a three-prong outlet with the ground, and he's curious if you have any tips on doing this. He's heard you can put GFCIs in each spot, but they're like $20 a pop. So that would be expensive. The current boxes are metal, which makes sense because it was built in 1955, and he's not sure how to test if they're grounded or not. Any tips on how to overcome this? And they would be really appreciated. And he lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, by the way.
Cool. All right, so the first thing, in one of your questions, you said a GFCI in each spot. You actually don't need to do that. You just need to protect the first one, and it'll protect the ones downstream. That's why those little stickers that say no equipment ground come in the box with your GFCI that nobody ever puts on. Current electrical boxes are metal. That's cool. Metal, let's see, 1955. I'm not sure what kind of cabling you have. That NM we were talking about before without a ground, or it could be BX back then, who knows. If it is BX, you should be able to get your tester and see if you have a ground or not to the box. That was your second question. You're going to get your voltage tester, put one lead on the hot, another to the metal box. If you have 120 volts, it's grounded. But putting a GFCI in the place of a receptacle that only has two wires is approved by the NEC just for that reason. I think that's it. I think just check to see if you're grounded, depending on what kind of cable you have, whether it's NM or BX. And you can put a GFCI at the first one. And remember, it'll protect all the ones downstream of that. Finding which ones are downstream is kind of tough sometimes. So you'll just have to figure that one out.
Right. And then once he has that GFCI installed, he can convert the two-prong to three-prong because they'll be protected.
Right.
So.
Right. But you have to put that sticker on there, no equipment ground, because somebody will assume there's a ground and there's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope that helps, Alex. And thanks for your question, man. We really appreciate that. This one's from Gilbert. He says he likes the work that we do. Thanks, Gilbert. We appreciate that. And he was looking up a project a while back, 2009 painting on an exterior house, and that's how he found us. He must have saw one of our first videos that we came out with.
Oh, and he's still watching?
Yeah. He said he really taught me how to use the Graco airless. Well, if that's the case, Gilbert, we apologize because in that video, we didn't even know how to use the airless.
We've come a long way.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Gilbert. We're glad that we helped you. But he's now about to start an next project for his wife, and his bathroom needs a renovation. He has an old bathtub and a sink, and they're peeling. We see that all the time. My bathtub's peeling, you know.
How does a bathtub peel? Is it painted?
Yeah, it has a coating on it.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's a business, right? People come in and recoat stuff.
Yep.
And a lot of people, when they're like flipping and renovating houses, instead of replacing, they'll just get somebody to come in and recoat it.
And I've even seen a kit in the home center where you can DIY it.
I don't know about that. Leave it to the professionals on that one. But I've heard you can save a lot of money that way. So he has old tile floors, bathtub walls, and the countertops, they are all tiles.
Cool.
That sounds like a really heavy bathroom. The bathroom is an original since the house was built in the 50s. And he was planning to do it in phases. So he was thinking on starting with a shower, and after that's done, he's going to gut everything else. He just has a few questions. First question, the shower walls, and it regards the membrane, the waterproof membrane. Do you have any preferences, one versus another, Red Guard versus Aqua Defense?
I don't. I kind of lean towards Mapai products, which is Aqua Defense, but to me, they're very similar liquid applied membranes. But I want to go back to where he says, I was thinking about doing it in phases. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody successfully do a bathroom in phases. It's hard to tear out the tub or the shower, get it done, and then come back and tear out the floor or the sink or whatever.
That's true.
If it's your only bathroom, you may have to, but that can be tough. So yeah, I like the liquid applied. We did a video on that.
Yes, we did.
And it was Mapai Aqua Defense. Love it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's really whatever's closest to you, whatever you have access to. They do the same thing. Really, no preference.
It's actually hard to find Red Guard where we live.
It is. It is. Second one, shower pan versus mud base. Your recommendations. When he says shower pan, I'm assuming he's talking about a pre-formed, like a Schluter shower pan, versus like a custom mud sand bed.
The foam ones. So we're gonna go with that, Gilbert. The foam shower pan like Schluter makes and others make now, that slope towards the drain, or you make your own mud base that slope towards the drain. If that's not what you have, send us another email. We'll check it out. So the foam ones work great, but you're limited on where the drain can go. If your drain's off in a corner, it's not going to work so well.
Right.
That's where you want to use a mud base. We've done both, but the foam ones are pretty slick, I got to say.
They are slick.
Yep.
It's easy to use, and obviously you're paying a premium for that.
Right.
The mud base is going to be way longer, but I personally like the mud base just because I think it's so cool.
It is.
Just being able to form your own slope.
It's like custom.
Yeah, I love that feeling. So, but I mean, if I had to, if I had the ability to put a shower pan in, I 100% would. Because it's pretty slick and it's come a long way. Third question, cement board versus hardy board.
All right. So 1/4-inch products on the floor, 1/2-inch on the walls.
Right.
I've seen 1/4-inch put on the walls, and honestly, we can't find 1/2-inch hardy board here. So almost everything we use on walls is 1/2-inch cement board, and I like it. A lot of people put up cement board. You got to tape the seams with the special alkyd coated tape and mud them. And then we go an extra step on the waterproofing and put the Aqua Defense or the Red Guard over that. Not necessary, but we like the belt and suspenders approach when it comes to showers.
And you can never be too safe when you're dealing with the shower, because if it leaks, if something goes wrong.
Yeah, we talked about that. It's like $55. Why would you spend thousands of dollars on a shower and not spend $55 to make sure you're going to be waterproof?
They say buy once, cry once, but I mean that doesn't really apply here because it's only $50. And what do you want to do? Pay $50 and take the extra step, or spend thousands to have somebody else come in and redo it?
Yep.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So, cement board versus hardy board.
I like cement board.
Yeah.
It seems more rigid to me.
Right.
But that's what we use.
I think hardy board has a few advantages. I think hardy board's a little lighter.
Yep. Could be.
I think some of it even comes with that grid pattern on it.
Absolutely.
So it might be more user-friendly to cut if you don't have a long drywall square like we use, and stuff like that. And I think hardy board might be made with a different material than cement board. So it'd be like that cement board kind of makes a mess. I think hardy board makes a little less of a mess. But I mean, if you're renovating your bathroom and you're worried about a mess, then
yeah, well they are, and that kind of leads into the next question: do you need to leave a gap? So hardy board will wick up moisture, so you're supposed to leave a gap between the bottom of the hardy board and your tub flange or your shower base or whatever. The cement board, not so much, but we still leave a gap. I mean, we leave a gap in almost any sheet good building product, whether it's roof sheathing, everybody knows that, subfloors, even drywall, I leave a little bit of a gap. I think it's always a good idea.
Yeah, and we use that tape with that Red Guard, or sometimes we even use Schluter, and it's sealed behind. So even if the water gets underneath the gap, some people might be concerned about that, but it's sealed behind there, so it's not really a concern. The point of the gap is just to what?
For expansion and contraction.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, right on. And this is the last section, and he says, that's it now with the questions. Thanks for the support and time on doing these projects and starting this new podcast.
Yeah. Great luck with your bathroom, Gilbert.
Yeah, good luck, Gilbert.
Yep.
Good luck. And if you have any other questions, guys, again, if you have questions beyond like what if you ask a question and we don't answer, feel free to send us another one.
Yep.
And we'll help you through the project.
Yep. And pictures and videos help us a ton.
Please, pictures and videos.
And let us know what town you're in.
Yeah.
Yep.
The more information, the better. Not too much, though. All right, Dad, our next question is from Raider. He said, hey, guys, awesome videos. Thank you, Raider. He said he took on a job to do lots of things, and one of them was to install tile flooring. And in his 25 years of doing projects, this is his very first tile flooring job. Well,
I understand that. It was a long time before I started tile.
Yeah, you're in for. I think tile is tough when you get when you start, but it gets a little bit more fun when you kind of understand it better. So good luck, Raider. We believe in you, man. Anyhow, the living room is not square at all. It's 14 to 14.6 wide at the other end and 35 to 35.8 long. So it's like just messed up.
6 inches out in one direction and 8 in the long direction.
He says he wishes that he can send pictures, but he unfortunately he can't because the homeowner doesn't want pictures taken. So What is the best way to avoid odd and weird small cut tiles that are visible? And I'm going to give you a second, Dad, but real quick, Raider, in the house that I used to live in, we had a room exactly that was this.
Right.
It was a sunroom. It was actually an exterior patio that was converted to another room, and that's what it was. It was framed horribly. And since it was framed horribly, the tile was literally crooked and slanted throughout the entire thing. Slivers on the edge.
Yep. The
tile was just slanted, and it looked really bad.
Every time I went in there, you kind of wanted to go like,
yeah,
what's going on?
It was really bad.
Yep.
So I mean, how would you tackle that, Dad?
Do we know what size tile?
Yeah, the tile is 12 inches by 12 inches. So just your standard foot by foot tile. All right. Square tile.
So get bigger tile. That's my answer.
Okay, but what if you can't get bigger tile?
All right, so you already have the tile.
Yeah.
Let's assume. One thing I do when I'm laying tile is, where are the doorways? Where's the line of sight? Where's the furniture going to go? If you can hide those odd angles behind furniture or something, try to do it. But if you can't, here's what I would do. So you've got the smallest dimension is 14 on one end and 35 on the other.
Right.
And I'm thinking, let's subtract a foot from each of those. So 13 by 34.
And you're just subtracting a foot to account for, you're just trying to get the most accurate layout possible.
Right. So we're going to build a perfect rectangle that's 13 by 34 in the middle of that odd shaped space. Your tile layout depends on you, Raider. Stacked, offset, or you could even do a diagonal. But you want the perfect rectangle within that odd shaped space.
I don't think I've ever seen stacked or offset 12 by 12 tiles.
Yeah.
It's really uncommon.
Mostly just like a checkerboard.
I think I would like stacked though. Anyway, sorry.
So then around that irregular perimeter, you fill that in with preferably a larger tile so you're not having small cuts.
Right.
You could use the 12 by 12, but the idea is to minimize that irregular border. For example, if the whole room was carpeted, you would never know it because your eye doesn't have a reference to something that's out of square. But when you put a bunch of 12 by 12 squares in a room that's out of square, your eye's drawn to them. But to me, you could minimize it by, again, doing that perfect rectangle in the middle with your pattern and filling in the perimeter with whole tiles that are cut down instead of smaller pieces. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so you have a perfect 13 by 34 tile layout.
Yeah, it could actually be, so 14.6 is the biggest. It could be 13.6.
Sure.
No, it could be 12.6.
Okay.
Because you'd have a 1 foot tile on one end and you'd have, help me out, 9 inches on the other.
Okay.
I think. No math in my head.
Right. That's, we're doing a podcast, so the math might be wrong sometimes. Dad doesn't have 2 hours to figure it out like he usually does.
Take the biggest dimension, subtract 12, because that's the size of your tile, times 2, and infill. That way you won't have any small pieces of tile.
Okay. I think inevitably he's going to have a few slivers on the edge, a few small pieces on the edge. They're going to have diagonal cuts.
Yeah.
But the idea is that instead of trying to form the tile to the walls, you have a perfectly square rectangle to fill in around. So when you walk into the room, you're not jarred by this out of square, because your eye is like looking at all these angles, it's going to pick up on it. So, but if you have a perfectly straight rectangle.
And I've actually seen this done before. And sometimes the border, I'm going to call it, is actually a different color tile or a different, different product.
That might work. So,
and I can't wait for the app where you just plug in the size of your tile and the size of your room, and it projects an image on the floor of your tile layout.
Oh, wow.
I'm waiting for that.
So you just hold the phone up here?
You need to work on that.
I don't know how to make apps. I just make YouTube videos, man. I don't know how to do all that.
So we hope that helps you out, Raider. That's kind of the direction I would go.
Yeah.
And if you have the time, you could lay it out dry. It might take you a while, but see how it works. Check with your client. See if they're on board. And good luck there in Las Vegas.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Here's a short one, 3 lines. Mr. Rod Potts, he said he's adding thicker material to his backsplash. So how does he deal with the gap at the receptacles? Or does he just use longer screws?
You're going to have to use longer screws.
Of course.
That's what everybody does.
Yep. But what does everybody not do?
They don't fill in that gap. So the NEC doesn't want anything bigger than a 1/4 inch gap between the face of the box and the face of your, in this case, your backsplash. So they make extensions. We're going to show you an example of a couple of those. and that's what you're supposed to put there. Now, there are a couple of types of extensions. This yellow one is going to provide support for the receptacle. Some of them don't. And we've all seen those little, I think they're like a lime green or yellow spacers to put between the receptacle and the box to make up for that gap. There's even a quicker way to do it. You don't have to go to the home center. Most people have what they already need in their house. You just need a little Phillips screwdriver and some copper wire. And I'll just make a little coil around the screwdriver with the copper wire. And that coil is the height of my gap. If I need a 1/4 inch gap, I make enough turns to make up a 1/4 inch gap, cut it, slide it off the screwdriver. That fits in between the back of the receptacle, the tab, and your box, and provides a bearing for the receptacle. I should, we'll just do that in a video. We'll show them that one day.
Well, but then there's still a 1/4 inch gap, right?
There is, but the receptacle is tight to the box because you fill the space between the yoke of the receptacle and the box.
Little coil, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I've never seen you do that.
So I've always got something for you, bud.
That's true.
So a lot of the times people don't put anything, and then the only thing holding the receptacle in place is the middle screw.
Right.
And you go to plug something in, what happens? It breaks and pushes back.
Yes.
How many of us have seen that?
So
that's another important thing is to provide backing and make sure the receptacle is solid. So when you're plugging something in, it doesn't get pushed back.
Right. Hope that helps, Rod. You just got to get something in there, man, to get rid of that gap or support it.
Yeah, and we'll try to show you exactly what we mean in an upcoming video with a little coil trick.
Awesome. All right, our next one comes from S. Mittens, saying they've insulated their garage walls, but they have not insulated their ceiling. And do you recommend renting a machine and blowing in the insulation, or would you rather put in rolled insulation, Dad? They have plywood in the attic over all the ceiling joists, which we love, right? We're all about plywood in attics. However, if it's uninsulated, then maybe not. So can they blow under the floor, or should they put rolled in? The joists are 2x4s, and a lot of it's covered by plywood.
All right. So my recommendation is to hire it out. No, I'm just kidding. So 2x4 joists. When I first saw that, I thought, well, maybe that's a truss. But then you say you have plywood over it for storage, I assume. And then I remember back in California, all the garages we ever had in our houses had just a simple 2x4 across the whole thing.
Right.
And really not meant for storage. It's not going to hold anything up. And I assume that you already have drywall there because you say blowing it under the floor. So you have a piece of plywood, and you want to blow the insulation under it so there have to be drywall under the joist.
Right.
So I would rip out the plywood, don't store anything up there, and then rolled or blown in. They both have their advantages, and you also need to consider venting it. Now that you've sealed the space in, you got to vent that thing. So if you blow it in and you just blow it into the eave and you have soffit vents, you got to account for that air.
Right.
There's all kind of baffles that you can buy. You can make your own. But you do have to rent a machine, rolled in insulation.
It's not just renting a machine. Blowing in insulation is way more than that.
Yep, you got to have somebody at the hopper.
You got to get a hopper, suited up, masked up, gloves, boots. You have to have a place to work.
Yep.
You have to have access, and now you're blowing it under that plywood if you're not ripping it up. That's a lot.
Yeah, and depending on what that plywood span is, I don't think you're going to blow it under there very well. So if the plywood is for storage, I'd yank it out. I wouldn't store anything up there on 2x4 joists.
We have a really good storage shelf solution on our channel if you want to check that out. So you're leaning more towards rolled insulation here?
Well, and the downside with rolled in is now you have to crawl in the attic and get all the way in the eave, right? We know how uncomfortable that is.
Right.
With blowing, you can just shoot it over there.
Right.
To me, it's just a cost thing.
So, yeah.
And what you're willing to put up with.
Right. So you can definitely, you're going to have to get the plywood up either way.
I think so.
Off the bat, you're going to have to pull the plywood up. But then it's just a matter of, do you want to get in the attic yourself, put in some rolled insulation, which is easy because you can just cut it, get up there and lay it, and then you're done. Right?
Right.
It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but if you're working in an attic, you already kind of come to terms with the fact that it's going to suck.
Yep. And a lot of the home centers will rent you the machine for free if you buy enough of the product. So maybe that's an option too.
Oh, right on.
Yep.
So you kind of just have to pick your poison.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's different in like we said, it's different in other parts of the country. Where we live, it's almost always rolled insulation. But I would check the 2x4, check your loading on it. don't store anything up there if those things aren't rated for that. I mean, there could be a middle post you're not showing us or telling us about that's supporting that, but I'm kind of concerned about the amount of weight up there.
Okay. So, yeah, as Mittens, I think what Dad's trying to say is you got to pick your poison and figure out, if you want to really do it. In the email, you said DIY project. So that tells me that you're willing to do it yourself.
Yep.
So pick your poison, man, and see what you're willing to do and what you're willing to go through.
Yeah, good luck. That's a tough one.
Good luck, and keep us updated.
And we hope you're in a cool climate that...
yeah, you might want to give it 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, we're coming up on fall, so it might not be too bad.
Yeah, maybe use these 2 or 3 months, meditate on that project, and let us know how it goes. Thanks, Mittens. All right, we got one from Mr. Charles Barrios. What's up, Donald? He says, loves watching our videos. Thank you. We have, they have an unfinished half bath in a garage. That's awesome.
A half bath in a garage? That should be standard. Right?
I agree.
For the guys.
100%. A little sanctuary out there. The toilet flange was roughed in 10 inches away from the wall, and he has the toilet, and the toilet that he has, it requires 12 inches from the wall, so that's classic. How can he install it without ripping up the concrete? He likes the new set, and he hopes that we hit 1 million subscribers soon. He's originally from Baton Rouge, and he loves the content. Thank you, Donald. Appreciate it.
Hello from Red Stick.
You.
So, can I install it without ripping up the concrete? Well, we actually just did that last week.
If you have to rip up the concrete, you have one of the best tutorials out there.
Right.
Right.
So toilets come in 10-inch rough, 12, and 14. Don't see too many 14-inch rough toilets. What that means is it's the distance from the finished wall behind to the center of the flange on the floor.
Right.
If you have a 12-inch toilet and you're not willing to go buy a 10-inch toilet, you can put a niche in the wall. Since it's a garage bath, it might work. All I'm saying is you're cutting the wall space behind the toilet to push the toilet back those extra 2 inches so you can put a 12-inch toilet on a 10-inch rough.
Right.
I've seen it done in homes. It's okay. Like I said, in a garage, it might be fine.
Yeah.
Especially if it's unfinished, it would be easy to do. If there's no drywall up, it would be easy to notch those studs.
Yeah.
If it's an outside wall, you got to count for your load and all that.
Yeah, so he says it's an unfinished half bath, so there's no walls up.
Right.
So he can definitely get his 12-inch toilet. He said the toilet he has on hand. So say that he just can't go back to the store. It's 12 inches.
Right.
The solution would be to notch the framing.
And we're all about reusing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can use what you have,
Yep.
make a small modification. So you would notch the studs on what we're assuming is an exterior wall. If it's not, that's even better.
Right.
Right. If it's backed up to a kitchen or whatever. But how would you support that? How would you go about that?
Well, the problem could be that maybe the vent for the toilet is in that wall.
Oh, so then you can't push it back.
And you can't push it back.
Right.
Or the stub out for the water supply should be low enough where you can push it back.
Right.
But if your plumbing's in the way, you don't have a lot of options, Donald.
You got to get a 10-inch toilet.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you're breaking up concrete.
Yeah.
Or maybe this will work. Since it's a half bath in a garage for guys, build a pedestal, move the drain in the pedestal, right?
Really?
A little step up to the throne. You got a vision of it?
Right.
Right.
You could even dress it up. You could put some tile on there, LED lights. Yeah, I was thinking LEDs on there. Okay, well, now we know what we got to do
right.
On our next remodel. So I hope that helps, Donald. You might have a toilet throne project going down in your half bath soon, bud.
Send us a pic of the final project.
Yeah, and then if the vent for the toilet is not directly behind the toilet, then probably a niche would be the easiest thing to do.
Yep.
And then how would you support that wall real quick before we move on? I mean, how would you frame that? Would you just,
I don't think I would cut out the entire stud. I think I would notch it.
You would notch the stud?
I would notch it.
And is that strong enough? Just would you leave the notch there? We've seen it done a bunch of times.
Is there a second story above the garage? Is there living space above the garage?
Right, lots of factors.
A lot of questions.
Cool. All right, Donald, hope that helps, man. Yep. Thank you for the question. All right, the next one is from Aiden Bogue. Hi, guys. Hope you're weathering the storm. That was from the hurricane, so we appreciate that. We are all well, and the whole city almost has power again.
Right.
I know you guys are busy, but maybe you can take some time out to answer my question. He's installing a hardwood floor, hickory. That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And the issue is, after removing the old carpet, the flooring has a huge sag in it. Now, the flooring is going to be stapled down over roofing felt, which is done pretty often with hardwood, but it won't. The roofing felt isn't thick enough to fill that gap. And he's actually included a picture here. The gap is 7/16. So there's a picture here. We're going to show you guys the picture, put it up on the screen right now. But we have a lot of questions just off the bat looking at the picture.
Right. So how long is that red level? If it's 4 feet and that's a 7/16 sag, I'm assuming each end of that red level is sitting on the floor, and that's a sag in the middle.
Right, because I mean, you can see it's almost level, so it's probably just that sag right there.
Yep. And then why does the blue level that's sitting on top of the red level, why is that bubble way off center? Shouldn't it be in the same spot as the bubble on the red level?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Maybe they're different accuracies.
I don't know. I don't know, but you can see the felt right here
Yep.
On the bottom, and so that's the thickness, and that absolutely is not going to make up for that sag.
Is that a piece of felt?
I don't know. I mean, I think so.
It's usually black. I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know.
But there's a 7/16 inch sag.
Almost half an inch.
Yep.
Big sag.
Yep. If you want it flat and level, self-leveling underlayment is the way to go.
Yeah, we love that stuff.
I love it.
Yeah. Although it can be heavy, it's going to add a lot of weight. So if that's on like the second floor.
Right, you have to account for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, well, if you're putting down hickory, is it going to be stapled? Can you go back to the question?
It is going to be stapled.
Well, then you can't staple through the self-leveling.
Oh, right.
So we got that going on.
Okay. Well, you know what? I mean, a 7/16 sag isn't the worst thing.
If it's over like 8 feet and the flooring is going, well, let's say the sag is this way.
Right.
And your flooring is this way.
Yeah.
It'll conform. But if the sag is this way and your flooring is trying to go across like the level, now you got an issue.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to change your layout to accommodate the sag. I don't know if that makes sense, but...
Well, we know from experience that a half-inch sag over 4 feet, no one's going to notice.
Well, 4 feet, maybe.
Maybe. But if they don't know and they're just kind of walking and talking and doing whatever, they're probably not going to notice.
It depends on the age of the house.
Right. And going back to the furniture thing.
In an old house, you expect it to be like that.
Right. And going back to the furniture thing, if their couch is going over this or a bed or anything like that, I wouldn't even worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, most people don't have long levels. I'm sure that's probably a 4-foot level. And if it is sitting on the floor on each end, that's a pretty good sag. Does it say, is this a second story?
No, it doesn't.
Is there a basement? Anything like that?
No, it doesn't say any of that.
If there's a basement, you could probably maybe jack it up from underneath.
Maybe. Can you build this up with any sort of material that would...
Accept a staple?
That would accept a staple and be not horrible, you know? Something that is similar to felt. Or do you just have to buy 100 stacks of felt and stack it up?
Well, even then, now the staple's not biting into the wood.
Into the wood,
right.
yeah. Do you get longer staples? Can you get longer staples?
I don't know. That's for a flooring guy.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
a flooring guy.
Yeah. Maybe you could shim it up with some kind of wood sheet good product. I'd have to think more about that. Send us some more pictures and we'll take another look at this one.
Yeah, the more information that we have, the more we can help. So if you guys are sending us stuff, absolutely just include, like, never think that you're sending us too many pictures, too many videos.
Right.
The more, the better.
Yep.
So we hope that helps, Aiden, but that's a tough one. That's a tough one without all the factors involved.
Yep. And you're in Georgia, so you're close to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
When we tackle something like that, we usually have so many things that we're looking at. Yep. It's never as simple or as surface as it seems. There's always so much lying under the surface.
Yep. And are you installing? You say you're installing the floor, but are you really doing it, or is a sub doing it?
Right.
Yep.
So hopefully that helps, Aiden. Send us more stuff, man. We would love to see.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. All right, next one from Malibu at Yahoo. Love the channel. They're from California, and they have a question.
All right.
You're familiar with California stuff.
Yep.
We bought a new house, and they don't like the laminate that they installed. It's water resistant, and they're having some issues in the kitchen and the bathroom. They want to replace the floors. It's 2,500 square feet, but in the bathroom, they ran the floor first, and then they put the cabinets on top of the floor.
Okay.
And in the toilet area, they put the floor down, and then they put the toilet down. That's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, that's what you would do with a toilet, right? The toilet always goes on top of the floor.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's normal. And because it's easy to pull up a toilet and then do whatever you need to do. Yeah. But the cabinet thing, you're right. How would they change the floors without taking the cabinets out? They were thinking about using a saw and cutting right against the cabinet and then run the new floor and then cover it with molding. Does that work, and what would you do? Thanks for making the great videos. Thank you, Malibu, for the question.
I would do exactly what you said, and they make a tool just for that. It's called a toe kick saw. We rented one in Washington when we were up there. It works awesome. They are made to go under a toe kick, cut through your flooring material, not tile or anything, although you can get a diamond blade for them and cut tile, but you've got laminate, right?
Yes.
It'll come with a proper blade. You set the depth, run it along your toe kick, and does an awesome job. They look a little bit unwieldy, like how am I going to use this thing? But very easy to use.
That's true. They are intimidating. The one we rented, it looked like maybe only 2 people had used it before us. So it was like brand new.
And it was a Crane, K-R-I-N, I'm sorry, C-R-A-I-N.
Right.
Specialist in flooring tools. That thing was a beast.
It was awesome. And it was super intuitive. Like you could just kind of pick it up. And if you've ever held a buzz saw, it's almost like a buzz saw and a circular saw combined. It's like if you've used both of those tools, you should be good to go. The only thing that you would have to watch out for, I think, is the height of your toe kick.
Right.
That toe kick saw that we rented was pretty beefy.
Yep.
And it might not fit under a smaller cabinet.
Yep. I know at my mom's house, she's had so many different floors installed. Well, not her, but her and previous owners. The toe kick's like only that high now, and there's no way to get a toe kick saw in there.
Right.
The toe kick saw, it actually, I think we used it quicker than it took us to get it, right? We spent more time going to the rental yard and driving home than it actually took us to use the tool.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that thing is awesome. And with the toe kick saw, they haven't quite figured it out yet. The toe kick saw is an awesome tool, but when you get to your corners, if you have any corners, or
an inside corner.
An inside corner. You're not going to be able to finish that cut with the blade.
Right.
So you're going to need to use some sort of tool, like a buzz saw, maybe even a hand tool like a chisel, and get that corner up. It's not difficult, but you do have to be aware of that.
Right. You're going to get kind of a rough edge on that inside corner, but it usually doesn't matter because you're putting new floor there anyway.
And then you're covering it.
Yeah. So check out a toe kick saw.
Go rent one.
Yep, and check it out.
Yeah,
You'll love it.
Yeah, you're going to like it a lot, Malibu. We hope that helps.
It's going to be your new best friend.
All right, this one's from Michael. He says, "Evening, gentlemen. Love the channel. He watches just about every episode. Well, what do we have to do? Yeah, what do we have to do to make it every episode?
Why not all?
What do we have to do?
What's going on, Michael?
He has an issue he needs some advice on. He recently purchased a home in Bridge City, Texas.
Oh, we go through Beaumont all the time.
Through
just
Beaumont,
right near Beaumont.
Right near Bridge City, so we're familiar with that area. And needless to say, when they did the home inspection, the inspector looked over or missed an issue where the roof and the rafter meet. Now, when we pull these pictures up, there's absolutely no way he missed it. No, actually, there's no way he missed it. He definitely looked over it.
Maybe he just didn't want to address it. I don't know. Those guys don't miss anything.
Really?
Really.
Well, let us know what your...
Half the home inspection reports I've seen, they catch everything. Those guys are...
Well, let us know what you guys' experience in the comments with the home inspector and what they've missed and what they haven't missed, and maybe, if they got a beer on the side or something. But
sometimes they catch something very obvious. Sometimes they catch something hidden, but they don't see the obvious.
Right. This Michael's done some small remodeling and improvements, and he just doesn't know which route he needs to take to repair this issue. And there's some slight sag in the roof. So how is he going to get the sag out? Any advice or insight would be appreciated. Thanks for the content. And where's the podcast going to be? It's going to be on YouTube.
Yep.
We're going to hopefully get it on other streaming platforms later, but this is just really a feeler. We're just getting our toes wet, guys. This is something that we've been wanting to do for a while. So we're just kind of seeing it out. We're riding it through, and we're going to improve and tackle those things as they present themselves.
Well, you want to show me that picture over here?
Yeah, right. So here's what we got. It's pretty jarring. It's pretty bad. Like, when you look at it, your immediate reaction is...
It takes you a minute to figure it out.
It's like you're looking at a jigsaw puzzle, and when you put the jigsaw puzzle together, it looks like you're looking at the first time somebody built a gazebo. It's kind of weird.
So I see shiplap or tongue and groove sheathing. That's pretty cool.
Is that on the roof?
Yep.
That's pretty nice stuff.
Before plywood and OSB, the house I grew up in had oak sheathing because the pine and woods like that were for the war effort in World War II.
Oh, wow.
Oak.
And so now that house is worth $3 million?
That's right.
Wow.
And there's a roof ventilator, so we know there's nothing above it, like another structure. Now, on the right-hand side of the picture, if you're looking at it, you can just see the ridge. And then heading from the center of the picture to the lower left looks like a hip rafter to me. And then in the upper right, the one that's split, that looks like a valley rafter. And in the middle, where that valley rafter is sitting on all those blocks of wood in that triangular, what do you call that? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
They were just trying to find a seat, a place for that valley rafter to land. And you can see it split pretty good. And then it looks like there's another rafter that may be split. And then over in the bottom right, just in front of that ventilator, passing through the image of that ventilator, you see a post.
Well, you know what I'm seeing, Dad, is that there's a hole towards the top. right?
That little black area.
So there's a hole, and you can tell that it's a hole because you can see the shadows in the back. And then look at these nails are coming through the top into this piece of wood right here.
Yep. So that hole could be like an old knot that fell out, something like that. Who knows what that is?
But then how is this nailed from the top?
Well, that's the nail for the sheathing into that rafter. Yep.
So this was original then?
Yep.
Okay.
And if there's a sag in the roof, then when that rafter split, it's pulling down the sheathing. And
100%.
You can tell center right of that picture, the sheathing is the opposite direction.
Yes,
so
it
we
is.
know that's a valley.
Right.
And if it's coming down, it's going to pull the sheathing with it.
So where would you start?
I think I would start knowing that there's a post there holding up the ridge. I would put a post under that split rafter.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Okay. And then if you'll notice, this support is cracked.
Yep.
This is compromised. And that's probably got a lot of load on it. Hopefully that's on a load-bearing wall. And I would replace that.
Yep.
I would absolutely replace that. So you replace this post here.
Right.
And then
put another one under the cracked valley rafter. You may need a hydraulic jack, something to push it back up.
Right.
You might even want to cut those nails off with a buzz saw so you're not fighting those nails when you're trying to pick everything back up.
Put some glue in there.
You could.
You could.
And then all of those triangular little blocks, or those little blocks that are forming a triangle.
Yeah, they're like
kind
nailers
of a
almost.
mess. I think that's exactly what they are. Because the hip rafter from one side does not line up with the valley rafter on the other side.
That's true, and it looks like it looks like this isn't even going all the way down right here. It's like
it's not. That's why I like the idea of a post.
Right.
And then there's one board. It's hard to describe which board I'm talking about, but they're just thrown in there and nailed off.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, that works. That's, nails and wood. We'll be good.
And this one right here looks like a little triangular block. See that one?
Right. It looks like this goes up. Then they cut a separate triangle piece to get the angle. That's weird. So replace that post, cut those nails, glue it, jack it up, and then when you fix that, the roof might stop sagging.
It might. And remember, when you replace a post, always put in the new post first and then rip out the old one. Or put in a temporary post, rip out the old one.
Right.
Something like that.
And again, with these attic projects, you guys are coming up on prime time attic restoration, the window.
That's right. Sometimes here, I'll defer a project till the fall or winter because I know I got to be in the attic.
Right.
Much cooler.
Yeah. So
or replacing eaves and fascias is brutal in the summertime.
And the good lighting right here too with the sun and
natural light.
Right.
Natural light.
Maybe open that up and get a nice cool breeze.
Yep.
You got what is that right here?
That's an octagonal junction box. Looks like it either has BX, maybe BX run to it.
It looks like it's going up. It looks like
there's something going up.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe LED lights on the roof.
Maybe
he's your age and puts LED lights everywhere.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps, Michael. We would just just try and support that, and really, there's like 15 different problems here, and you just got to tackle each one individually until it's better.
But I think it's solvable. It is solvable.
Yes.
Roof rafters look like they're 2x6s. But I would try the post idea.
Yeah.
I really would.
Definitely.
But make sure they're on the post is on a wall that's going to transfer that load to your slab or your foundation.
Yeah, the hardest part of that is just getting the angles right and then hitting it into place. Because if the roof is sagging, you're going to have to go against the load of the roof. So that can be tough, but we've done it.
Yep.
So good luck, Michael. And again, if we ever answer a question and you guys have questions on our answers, just resend it in.
Send in another email.
Yeah, send it back in.
What about? Or they could reply to the original, right?
They could reply to the original email.
Okay.
But if what we say isn't super helpful and you guys are still a little lost, please feel free to respond or re-email, and we would love to answer. Okay, here's one from Steven.
We're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, we're gonna keep going.
All right.
Steven says, "Hey, StudPack, he's been joining our channel for several months. We're fantastic." Well, thank you, Steven. Sometimes we read comments and people don't say that we're very fantastic, so that's good to read. He's excited about the podcast. Well, we're excited to be here, man. This is what he needs help with, Dad. He says his wife wants to install French doors. That's like the second or third time these guys have talked about their wife wants to do this.
I think they're blaming it on their wife.
Right. Yeah. He says, I want these French doors, StudPack, but I don't want to let everybody know that I want them. He wants to turn the front entry room into a home office. We see that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Especially now.
Yep.
Everybody working from home.
Everybody working from home. The front room has 2 openings, and he's included pictures, so we're going to show those. And he doesn't want to completely close off the door, so they plan to install 2 sets of double doors.
Okay.
So he ordered 2 door assemblies from the Orange guys, and they should be here around the first week of October. He's never installed doors, let alone double doors, but he's pretty handy, he says, and he's got a decent set of tools.
Cool.
Most importantly, he's got a neighbor who has agreed to help.
I love neighbors like that.
Oh, man. Good neighbors are the best.
Yep. I think your first step in this project, not knowing what the rest of it is, you got to go get a case and put it on ice for him. So when you're done,
for both of them.
Both of you.
Yeah, because y'all are going to be fighting 2 sets of double doors.
Right.
And that it's going to be nice. So definitely 6-pack off the rip. He's done a few door installs on his own house, but only single doors. If you could do a single door, you could do a double door. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking for any tips that you might have to make it go as smooth as possible. So obviously he sent us pictures here, and the first opening is 60 by 81, and that is the first opening towards the picture. And then the second opening is 67 by 81. That's the one near the front door. The first opening is smaller than what the manufacturer recommends, and he needs to build out the front door opening because obviously it's too big. So we have a door opening that's too small and a door opening that's too big.
Too narrow, too wide.
Right.
We hadn't talked about the height yet.
Right.
Okay.
Too narrow, too wide. So yeah, he laid out a game plan for us.
What size are the doors that he ordered?
They 60, are both 60 by 80 standard doors.
All right. All right. You want me to go? You want me to say my first thought on this one?
Yeah.
Let's take the 60 by 81, one of the 60 by 81 doors, and you're trying to put it in an opening that is. That is the opening.
Yes, the opening is 60 by 81, but the doors are 60 by 80.
All right.
So
it's not going to fit.
No, of course not.
Next question. No, I'm kidding, Steven. I got you.
Yeah, it's not going to fit, dude.
So let's talk about the 60-inch wide opening. I don't know if you measured to the finish or if you accounted for the finish, whether it's wrapped with drywall or if it has a. Does it show in the picture?
Well, you can see here. Yeah, it's wrapped. It's actually got a casing around it. The whole entryway has some sort of. Wait.
Oh, this looks like the walls look like paneling to me.
Okay. Yes.
So that's either drywall or it's some kind of wood casing or something like that. So I don't know if you accounted for that when you measured, and you measured to the rough, to the actual 2x4 framing, or if you measured to.
He probably just measured the finished door.
All right. So I think in your order of attack, you said you're going to take all that off and then measure, right?
Yes.
All right.
He's going to remove the base, remove the corner bead, which confirms that it's drywall, and he's going to remove the drywall from the interior of the opening. This is the opening.
Oh, so it is drywall. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So he's going to make it larger, just kind of expose the guts, expose the jacks.
All right. So assuming you got 60 inches with drywall, you remove the half-inch drywall, now you're at 61. You're still not going to fit. You're going to need a little more. So here's a trick that I've done in the past. You got to know what's above, right? If second story, you got to account for the loads always. But here's what I've done to increase the width of a door opening. You're going to remove the jack stud. If you're not sure what a jack stud is, just check it out online.
It's the first stud that you see.
Right, and it's holding up the header. So you're going to put a post to hold up the header. You're going to remove that jack stud.
One jack stud.
One at a time, which is 1.5 by 3.5. And you're going to replace it with a piece of 3/4 inch plywood that's ripped to 3.5 inches wide. And you're going to put it back in place of the jack stud. And you're going to pick up 3/4 of an inch on that side. Then you're going to do the other side. And when you're done, you will increase the width of the opening 1.5 inches. And then that door should fit on the width.
Okay. And so some people might be concerned about, well, is 3/4 inch plywood strong enough to hold up the header?
Yeah. Again, it depends on what's above. Do you have a second floor? All that. That's a question that you're going to have to answer.
Right. But it looks like a single-story home.
Yep.
So if it is, and the header's cut long enough, then you're good to go.
Yeah. Sometimes an opening that wide, there might be 2 jacks.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Cool. So that's easy solution for the first one. You just get some plywood, rip it, put it in, nail it, screw it, whatever. And then
and let me back up real quick. Knowing that you're increasing the width of the opening, now you're going to have a gap in the floor.
Right.
You want to adjust the flooring later or not?
Yeah, later, because we're just talking about expanding the door. So now let's go to the next one where he's adding framing to make it more narrow. Because remember, it's 67 and it's the rough is 60.
Right,
so
right.
Now he needs to.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool because you have some options. You can just bring it all in from one side.
Right.
If that helps you out, or you can split it equally or split it unequally. You have some options on moving that door within that opening.
Absolutely.
And you should remove the flooring underneath. I never put framing, almost never put framing on top of a finished floor. And it would be easy to cut that tile with a diamond blade.
Yeah.
And get it out of your way.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you have the tile cut, and you get obviously you're going to be using some 2x4s.
Yep.
Well, do you need something under the 2x4s? Do you need a pressure treated sill?
So I've seen it both ways. I've seen guys just pad out without a sill to account for their new opening, and they don't put the studs all the way on the ground. They leave a little gap.
Okay.
But we almost always put a sill down there.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth it to cut an 1.5 inch sill? We usually do. But we kind of do it a little different. Instead of cutting an 1.5 inch piece off the end of the 2x4,
right,
and putting it in there and having it split in half when we drive it in, when we put a nail in it, we rip a piece 1.5 inches, and now we're nailing through the grain, through the cross grain, not through the end grain, and it won't split.
Right.
Kind of hard to describe. Again, we'll try to show that in a video.
Well, something else that you can also do is you can just leave the sill long, get all your framing padded out on top of that long sill. And then once it's all secured and ready, you just cut it flush with the last stud.
Yep.
And then you're good to go.
Yep. But he's going to have a hard time doing that here because he's got that finished floor in the way.
Right.
Yep.
That is true.
Yep.
So that's one way. I would probably just not do a sill plate in this application because it's just purely for padding purposes, and you're just going to be nailing drywall to it and all that. So I probably wouldn't do a sill plate. I mean,
well, what about the height? Do we have enough height? 81 inches.
Yeah, they're both 81 inches tall.
For an 80-inch door.
Right. So in your rough opening,
it's supposed to be at least 2 inches higher than your rough, so you need like an 82.
Right.
But remember, on a 60-inch wide door, you only need an inch on either side. You might get it in there.
And well, on this one, it looks like there's some sort of like I said, there's some sort of casing, some sort of...
The same thing that's on the side jams.
Right.
On the header.
So you probably can pick up a little bit of distance there, but on this one, it's wrapped in drywall, so you're not getting anything there.
Yep.
So that's going to be tough.
Well, you'll gain half an inch. That may be all he needs.
Yep, absolutely. So then he's going to put the door... After he's got all that done, which is, I mean, that's a huge undertaking in and of itself. You know? You might need to buy your buddy a 12-pack. You put the door frames into the place, and then you use shims to make them plumb and square, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so many videos on YouTube on how to hang doors using shims. You know, get the top locked in and just work your way down, get the reveals even. And if your buddy's hung doors before, then he should be able to walk you through it. It's pretty simple.
You're halfway there.
Yeah, you're halfway there. It's pretty simple. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of fine tuning. But once it's worth it and you step back and you look at that door, and it's the reveals are all the way even, your doors are level, the latch is lined up. It's just a great feeling.
His biggest struggle is going to be getting them in the opening.
Yeah. Once you're in the opening, Steven, you're halfway done. You're more than halfway done.
We don't ever have that problem, do we? With the door not fitting.
No.
Okay.
In one of our videos that recently came out, maybe the one that came out yesterday.
Maybe. I don't remember.
Maybe we put the door in the first time, and maybe it didn't fit the first time, and maybe we didn't show you guys that, okay? And then after you have your door in, you patch the drywall, you install your casing, install your baseboard, paint, finish work.
But what does that say? Would it be better to position the door frame with the doors attached? That's how I do it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's kind of unwieldy because you got the frame and these two doors that want to do all this, but you got your buddy, one on each side. And like we said in our last video, the way we hang doors with shims is you get it in the opening, you put 2 shims at the top between the head jam and the framing on each side, and they'll wedge that head jam in place and lock it in place.
Right.
And that's going to hold that door most of the time, unless you've got very heavy doors, and you can kind of operate them as you get the sides done.
If you had one person trying to hang a double door by themselves, unless you're a professional and you're 7 feet tall with a wingspan like Michael Phelps, you're not doing it by yourself.
Yeah, you're going to have to take the doors off, build some kind of spreader to hold the jam in place, something like that.
Which you could do.
Yep.
But the fact that you got your buddy, already a huge advantage. You got this, honestly. I think this is a fun project right here.
Yes.
This is a fun project.
Oh, Albuquerque. We love Albuquerque. Look at that.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
One of my brothers used to live there.
I went to a Jersey Mike's there one time.
I got a cousin there.
Cool. Cool, Steven. Hope that helps, and good luck with your project, and send us a picture when it's done, or if you have any other questions.
Yeah. Now,
Because the second you get those walls open up, you're going to run into a problem.
Yep. Now go back to the picture. I'm just seeing something on that little one. It looks like that ceiling on this side of that doorway is very low. Mm-hmm. Looks like some kind of a cove.
Yeah, cove molding, like
acting as a crown.
An inch above the doorway.
Yeah, and then it looks like in the very upper right corner, maybe is that a tray ceiling? See that shadow line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. So you don't have a lot of room there for casing, but it'll fit.
It'll fit.
Yep.
Good luck, Steven.
Yep. Good luck, buddy.
Good luck to you, man. All right, Dad. This one's from Donald Catanzaro. He's from Lowell, Arkansas.
Oh, our neighbor to the north.
Yep, and he says he's remodeling a house in Arkansas, not too far away, right on. And he's a DIYer, so he's not a professional, but he's done stuff like this before. The house is fairly old, in the 1940s, and he's knocking some walls out, making bigger windows, that kind of thing. We're all for knocking walls out. I've removed most of the sheetrock, and he's insulating the exterior. So it turns out all the studs are rough sawn lumber.
Yeah. There's always sheetrock that you forgot about, right?
Right.
There's always some more that has to be torn out.
Right, and he's concerned that when he re-sheetrocks the house, it will all be wavy because the walls weren't very flat before the remodel. Square level, plumb, all that. I mean, it's rough sawn lumber, right? So it's not going to align.
Well, I wonder what his exterior sheathing siding is. What is it? Is it wavy? Does he say what it is?
No, but I mean, really, what his question is he just wants. He's got a few options depending on how bad it really is. Does he skip the sheetrock and go with other types of wall coverings like shiplap, drywall shims, cardboard? We've done custom drywall shims with wood. We've ripped wood on the table saw.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because on the West Coast you can buy cardboard drywall shims anywhere.
Really?
Right here, nobody's ever heard of them.
What? Wow. Okay.
It's a regional thing. It's the funniest thing.
He could fur everything out with wood using a laser level, but boy, that seems like a lot of work. That seems like something you would do. Mm-hmm. I could use. Sometimes I show up to the job site. I'm like, all right, what are we filming? You're like, oh, I'm using. You're like sitting there with a laser for like 3 hours. I'm like, oh my. I could use a laser and maybe a handheld power plane. Probably not. You don't get the most accuracy with those. Like unless you use them all the time, it's really hard.
And you're not going to be able to get all the way to the floor and all the way to the ceiling.
And then this is going to be their favorite. And our favorite, a heavy knockdown texture. I love it. Yeah. I think that's it. Donald just put sheetrock up. It's gonna look horrible, but heavy knockdown, you'll be good to go. Next question. No, just kidding.
Just kidding.
Okay. So you have a good one for this.
I do. So we had a project in Southern California. Same thing. And it was actually a floor that was way out. No, was it a floor? It was a ceiling. It was a ceiling.
Okay.
Way out, and the owners wanted it perfectly flat. So we bought steel studs, and don't get turned off by that. They're really easy to work with if you've never done them before. We put one on the joist on one end of the room, perfectly level. Another one on the joist on the other end of the room, perfectly level.
Right.
Ran a string line between them. Had to account for the sag. I think we may have had to pick up the middle a little bit with a nail or a screw so it wouldn't sag. And then for the intermediate joist, we put the metal joist on the stud just so it kissed the string on both ends.
Right.
So it referenced off the two that were already perfect and screwed it to the wood. Now, in your case on a wall, you would do the same thing.
But it's easier.
That's right, working on ladders.
Yeah.
So imagine you're looking at the wall. On the stud to the far left, you're going to put a steel stud on that wooden stud that's irregular, and it's going to be perfectly plumb. You're going to get it perfectly plumb.
Yeah, you just get your level.
Yep.
And the metal stud's going to be just sticking out a little bit. It's going to be proud.
Just enough to accommodate the worst spot in the wall.
Right. Which you could probably find pretty easily beforehand.
Right.
And then you're just going to get in there and just screw it in.
Right.
Super easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just need a pair of 10 snips and a screw gun.
Yeah.
And the right kind of screw.
Yeah, or a drill. I mean, you could even use a drill.
Yep.
Do the same on both.
Yep.
Get a string. Find out where it's at.
Yep. Once you put your strings up, you just fill in. You bring that stud out as you're filling in, just so it kisses the string. You don't want to touch the string because then by the time you get to the other side, you've moved the string way out of the way.
Right. And I mean, that's easy. You're just going to have to get the metal stud behind the string. You're just going to have to be here, screw it in, and then come down to the bottom, screw it in, and then fill it in. And then by the time you're done, even if it's not perfect, it is going to be 99% better than what it was.
Yep.
For sure.
Now, when you go to attach your sheetrock to the metal studs, you have to use drywall screws made for that purpose, the fine thread ones, that's big. And the other thing you're going to find, depending on how many electrical boxes or wires or plumbing is in that wall, you got to cut around them. And of course, with the metal and electrical cables, you got to be careful.
Yeah, but you could either notch the metal studs or just cut them in half and just fill in, because the point of the metal studs isn't support. It's a nailer.
Yep.
It's a nailer, essentially.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah. So you could just cut around the pipes, cut around the wires, whatever you need to do.
And if I could build my dream home, I think it would be made with metal studs.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
They're perfectly, in commercial,
yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
They're perfectly straight. They don't burn. They don't rot.
Yeah.
There's not a bug in the world that will eat them.
Yeah. You're like, wow, that building got put up in 2 minutes.
Yep.
And wow, it's been standing there for 2 million years. How is that even possible? Well, metal studs, baby.
Love metal studs.
Yeah. Cool, Donald. Hope that helps.
Maybe we can have a second channel, Metal Stud Packs.
Yeah, and then I could play the music that I actually listen to.
That's right.
You guys think the rock is bad now? Okay. All right, last one here. We're going to do... this one's a short one, so it won't be the last one. But this this is Thomas from Knoxville. He says he's trying his luck at doing an epoxy countertop. He's kind of unsure. He'll follow some online tutorials, and he shouldn't have any problems. And he just sent us a picture of, first of all, the countertop, which is awesome. That looks like an awesome countertop, and good luck with the epoxy. Everybody's seen those cool epoxy videos on YouTube. We haven't ever done an epoxy before, but oh man, we would love to try one. And I think, if this YouTube thing works out, we probably do one here in the near future.
So it looks like a cutout for a farm sink or something there?
Yeah, some sort of.
So is that a wooden counter that he coated with an epoxy?
Probably some sort of primer, because it's definitely not a stone countertop that he's covering in epoxy. So yeah, it's probably just wood or MDF or something like that. Might even be foam.
Yep, and you can tell that's a guy who is working on his house.
Yeah,
look at the tools.
I mean, we don't want to pry too much here, but I mean, we love the garage. We relate to the garage. Totally. That's a man's garage right there. Okay, totally. You got the box of wood, you got the pressure washer, the paint can, the router table, all of it.
Love it.
The level, the clamps. I mean, I feel right at home looking at that picture.
Yep. But I love that counter. Seamless, no joints. Looks awesome.
And you know what, Thomas? Please send us a picture. Yep. And if you learn anything, let us know, man. We would love to see how that turned out for you, man. All right, gang, for our last question, Mr. Joshua Sutton. He says,
what's up, Josh?
What's up, Josh? He says, Dear Paul and Jordan, my name is Josh. He's 20 years old and lives in northern Illinois.
Cool.
He recently started watching the channel, and your care and your skill is immediately evident through your videos. Well, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. I work really hard on that. I care a lot about doing high-quality, long-lasting work, and it's obvious that you do as well. Thank you for all your efforts in teaching, and he has plenty of questions, but I'll try to keep this short. He gives us a little background on himself, says that he has a technical diploma in building trades carpentry from a local tech school. He's working towards facilities maintenance. Pretty much that is...
Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
Yep. I did facilities maintenance for over 20 years.
Yeah, that's kind of where you got started, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Facilities maintenance. But
you see it all. You see everything.
Yeah, yes, you do. He says he doesn't really have a mentor. He can ask, his boss some questions, but he's not a contractor. Okay. So, he's asking you some questions. Dad, he says one of his biggest questions at the moment is where to source materials.
That's a great question.
That is a great question. He says he has almost strictly used the Orange Guys and Menards. Menards. I've never even been there.
We don't have them down here.
No, where are they?
I think Ohio, Illinois.
Oh, Midwest?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, Menards, and it's been mostly Menards. They serve me pretty well for most things, but he runs into issues like with their trim selection and their specialty items.
Yep.
Can you break down where you tend to source your materials? Drywall, roofing, lumber, trim, siding, all that stuff. He's got 2 lumber yards near him that he's interested in looking into, but wondering what the advantages are. Is it cheaper? No. Are the products nicer? Do they offer more services? Where can you get decent stuff from? He's intimidated because of his lack of knowledge.
Okay.
To sum it up, in your remodeling work, where do you turn for materials? This is a great question.
It is.
And I feel like when you're young and you walk into a store, a lot of these stores, what people don't get, a lot of these what do I want to say? These privately owned stores, or maybe not big, but they are intimidating.
They are.
Because the guys who have been there forever.
Yep.
And if you walk in there with a stupid question, I mean, they will not hesitate. They will not hesitate to make you feel stupid.
So his last point, I'm honestly a little intimidated because of my lack of knowledge. So
right.
When you walk into a plumbing store and you want to ask the guy behind the counter for a fitting, you better know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get somebody who's going to want to help you.
Like this guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
But for the most part, every trade has their own language, right?
Yes.
A donut to an electrician is different than a donut to a plumber. They're real things, right?
Yes.
And a donut to a chef, or my friend Steve. He does donuts in that souped up Camaro.
Yeah, the Hellcat.
Yeah.
Yeah, donuts are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But every trade has a language, is my point.
Yeah.
And if you know the language, it kind of helps you out.
Yeah.
What I do when I go in a store and I'm not sure, I'll say, what do people around here, you know, I play like I'm dumb, like I'm new to the area.
Okay.
What do people around here call this, you know? Oh, let's call it X, Y. Oh, got it, thanks.
Okay. Can be regional sometimes too, so you can use that to your advantage.
There is so much regional jargon in the trades, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. So the other part of the question about where do I go, it depends. If I need one sheet of drywall or two, I'm going to a home center. But if I need something for a whole house, I'm definitely going to a drywall supply house for a couple of reasons. The main one is they're going to deliver it for me and stock it in the house, and I don't have to load it on a cart, wheel it through the store, put it in my truck, drive across town, and then put it in the house.
Right. Stuff gets heavy.
I just go to the counter, this is what I need, and if it's $65 for the delivery, I don't care. It's going to save my back.
Yeah, $65 for delivery or $6,500 for
back surgery.
Yeah.
And for framing lumber, kind of the same thing. If I need something for a whole job, I'll go to a lumber yard. The downside of going to a lumber yard, you get what they bring you. Remember those LVLs we got that were cupped and we had to flatten them? Well, if you go to a home center, you see everybody there sighting down everything, making sure they're getting the straightest stud. And then the ones that are the rejects, well, that's the big pile on the floor, right? They're all jumbled up like toothpicks.
Right.
Drywall, framing material, electrical. There's a locally owned electrical supply store that I love to go to.
Okay.
I'm in there with all the old crusty Sparkies, right? But I kind of know the electrical language, so those guys help me out a lot.
Yeah.
Their prices aren't better. I just prefer giving my money to the local guys than the national chains as often as I can.
Right.
Trim. I got a trim shop here. When you walk in the front door, it's a disaster. And to me, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I want a messy shop with sawdust everywhere and desks piled high, because those guys know what they're talking about.
They don't have time to clean because they're too busy, doing the real work.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll help me load the truck if I'm taking it, or they'll deliver it.
Absolutely.
What else we got? Plumbing, kind of the same way. Where we live in Baton Rouge, there's some great plumbing shops.
Yeah.
HVAC materials, honestly, I don't do a lot of that. There's a couple of trades that I've never really, so to speak, worked in. On HVAC, I can usually diagnose the problem, but I'm not going to go buy a compressor and pull a vacuum and change that thing. I'm just not set up for that.
Right. So let's just get back to his question. He's talking about, he's intimidated because of his lack of knowledge. And to sum it up, in remodeling work, where do you turn to materials? I think if you need just one or two things, the home center. It's just easy, convenient, and you got to know what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're going to spend half a day in there.
Yeah. And if you're intimidated, I would just go in and say, hey, I'm just getting started. Could you help me out?
Right.
Most guys or gals working behind the counter, they're going to love to help you.
Yeah. The worst thing you could probably do is go in there and act like you know what you're talking about. Right. So you just got to surrender yourself to the trades at that point and just say, hey, man, I'm just getting started, and I would really love if you could help me out with this. Yeah. And you're going to be intimidated, but they're probably going to respect you more for that than going in there and trying to BS your way through an order. Yeah,
because they can smell BS a mile away.
Yep. Absolutely.
So if you don't know something, I would just own it and say, hey, I'm not sure about this. Could you help me out?
And every single place has their advantages and disadvantages. Like a specialty retailer, like we use McMastercar.com a lot. I don't know if you could call them a specialty retailer, but you can get stuff on that website that you can't get anywhere else. Right. And sometimes you have to use that, if you know exactly what you're looking for, but, big box doesn't have it. And a lot of the times these local places don't have it. Right. So it's really just...
And you'll pay a premium when you order online sometimes.
Yeah.
But
it's what you need,
Yep. And I got a little story about going to an electrical counter and not knowing what you need.
So, okay, let's end it with a little story.
I was in my favorite electrical supply place.
Okay.
They're pulling my order right here in Baton Rouge.
Oh, okay.
You want me to give the name?
Go ahead.
Notico.
Okay.
Bluebonnet and Airline.
Notico here in Baton Rouge, right?
So those guys got everything you need. So I'm sitting there I'm standing there eating some popcorn, waiting for my order to be pulled.
You're eating popcorn at Notico?
Yep, they got a machine. They take care of your customers.
Thumbs up.
And they got coffee. So the guy comes in, he's got a uniform on from some electrical company and says, hey, will such and such size wire handle so many amps? And the guy behind the counter said, it's not my job to tell you that.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like,
straight up.
That is like...
Yeah, do you think the guy behind the counter knew the answer?
But he was absolutely correct. Because what if he tells that guy a size
Right.
wire, turns out it's not, burns
Right.
down a building? The electrician needs to ask for the right size wire.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my little story on.
It's not my job to tell you that.
Right.
Yeah, so you can
So-
say, hey, what is this part called, but do I need to use this part for this?
Yeah.
Right.
And you can do a lot of research online. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
the answer to that question is very easy. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that helps, Josh. I know that's a lot of jumbled stuff,
It
but
is.
I mean, to sum it up and to probably end, just be open and honest that you're just getting started out because, hey, everybody was there at one point.
Because you're 20, dude.
Yeah, you're 20. And honestly, these guys will probably respect you for being 20 and trying to do this stuff.
Right.
Because in their heads, oh, those young 20-year-olds or even, I'm 27, they don't want to get on there. They don't want to do the dirty work. They already, so they'll respect you just by doing it automatically.
Yep. You got this.
Yeah,
can do
you got it,
Yep.
man. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email us.
Yep.
And if we didn't get to your guys' questions, we will. We still have a lot more.
Yep.
And if you're like, oh man, they didn't get to mine, well, we're gonna get to them. And if you guys have any questions, send them in.
Yep.
Because we need more.
Yep. And for some of you, we sent you follow-up emails because we need more pictures or video
Right.
to answer your questions. So look for those if we didn't answer your question.
If you're gonna send them in, videos and pictures as much as you can.
Yep.
We would absolutely love that.
And let us know where you're from. Like we said, we love to know what town you're from.
Yeah, I think the region matters too.
Yeah.
Because if you want to help somebody in the South or in California, you know a lot about that. But again, I want to emphasize that when we're talking and we're giving solutions and talking, if you guys are in the comments and you're watching this and you're thinking in your head, oh man, I dealt with that, I know a perfect solution to that.
Right.
Please feel free to
Absolutely.
comment.
Yep.
That's exactly what this is all about. We want you guys to comment, get involved, and just come together collectively to help each other. Because
Yeah, especially like Josh. He would love that.
right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Just like Josh, man. We're just here to help and offer our advice and hopefully bring all these people together and help everybody out as much as we can.
And like Jordan said, regions matter. Because if you're asking me a water heater question, I can't say hot water heater, right? It's a water heater.
Okay.
It doesn't heat hot water. It heats
Right.
water.
Right.
If you had hot water, you wouldn't need it.
Well,
So-
you might have hot water if it's in the attic and you're in the South.
That's true. But if you have a water heater question from California, well, now you got some seismic concerns, right?
Right.
Or if you have a question on a deck, roof,
Yeah,
or
it
something
matters.
in the north, you got snow load.
It matters.
We don't know what any of that's about.
The more information, the better, obviously, guys. Obviously, we don't need to know too much, but just name, region, pictures, videos, situations, and that helps us help you.
It does.
So
Perfect.
that's a wrap for our first podcast, Dad. I think
Awesome.
that was pretty good.
I liked it.
I think that was pretty good.
liked
I can't wait to get a better setup, figure out what we got to do. I'm sure they're going to leave suggestions for us on what we could do better, and I'm excited for this
Absolutely.
podcast number 1 in the books.
It's a wrap.
All right,
Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
see you in the next week.